I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Board of Leavenworth County Commission. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, all three commissioners are present. I'd like to start with a moment of silence. I'd like to open up with public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address. Seeing none, we'll move on to administrative business. Mr. Lawfrey.
I wanted to discuss a little bit about the meeting schedule. Our intention is not this Thursday, but the following Thursday to have a schedule for you to approve for the new year for the scheduling. I wanted to make sure that the last indication was that we wanted to move our meetings to Tuesdays and then have one meeting a month in evening. So if that's the intent, I want to make sure we put together the right resolution to make that happen. I'm going to have the county councilor prepare a home rule or charter resolution, excuse me, which allows us to meet just once a week instead of twice a week going forward. So,
well, it'd be two meetings. It'd still be a morning meeting, session 1, and session 2 would be the evening meeting. The way I thought.
I didn't think we were going to meet twice a day every week, or two times a day every week for the Tuesdays. I didn't think we were going to meet at like a morning session and an evening session each Tuesday. I thought it was just one Tuesday evening. So we'd meet. My understanding was, and I could be wrong on this, that we were going to meet on Tuesdays instead of on Mondays and Thursdays. We would meet at our normal time 3 weeks a month at 9 a.m. And then on the 4th, we would meet at either 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. here in this meeting room on the 4th Tuesday. So we'd meet just once a week instead of twice a week.
How did you see it, Commissioner? I thought we were going to do it at 10 o'clock on Tuesday and then do like a 6 o'clock on Tuesday evening and still have two meetings.
Well, I'd rather leave you out there by yourself, unless you want some support.
Well, how did you see it? I mean, I know you probably play basketball on Tuesday mornings, and I'm sure.
No, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Oh, okay. You're just recovering still on Tuesday morning?
No, I'm napping.
Okay. Well, what's your guys'
Well, what
thoughts?
I saw was what I felt, and it doesn't really matter to me. I think we have too many meetings. But I thought it was every day at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And every Tuesday at 9 o'clock and every Tuesday evening at 7. And the only difference that I saw was you were thinking maybe we go to Tonganoxie and then a Baser, and I didn't feel that was good because staff.
Okay.
So I was thinking it was Tuesday, 2 meetings, and then we may go back to not meeting in the evening if it doesn't pay out.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
don't
this
think
is
it's
a
gonna
trial. This is a trial basis.
But the Tuesday morning is a definite. So we've had some communication that sort of fell here, but that's all right. Communication can fall apart.
That's why I wanted to discuss it a little bit more today to get it ironed out so that we can prepare the appropriate resolutions.
Commissioner Holland, how did you see it?
Same way you saw it.
That's what I thought. We were going to still have two meetings, the session 1 in the morning, session 2 in the evening. And like I said, this is on a trial, except for the week that there's a mark meetings.
Which I think makes it kind of confusing to the public.
Yeah,
I think it needs to be set in stone, kind of, not set in stone, but
The same day, every
day.
month.
same dates and times, are, that consistency will.
Right. It needs to be
much-
consistent.
Much easier to understand for
Because
those who only attend on an occasion.
People will
rather
say,
than every-
is it this night we're going to have a meeting, or is it?
With all the modern conveniences, and we cannot find out when the meeting
No,
will
we
be.
won't.
In fact, I'd ask that everybody who's listening get the agenda, and it will be mailed to you, so you will know.
Email.
Or email. Yeah, email, thank you very much. That's mail now.
Okay.
And I know that puts a burden on the secretary, but she'll have all names there, and I guess punch a button, and it all goes to everybody who deserves to get the agenda. So it should be pretty simple. And that's for the youthful at heart. So that's what I was thinking, and it sounds like we all agree. It's Tuesday morning, Tuesday evening, and then after we see Tuesday evening probably isn't going to work out, we can just make it Tuesday morning, and if we want 2 meetings, we can have it.
Session 1, session 2.
Yeah, or we can have the one. So let's go with Tuesday.
Let's start out, and then we'll see how
Okay,
the
got that?
first couple weeks, and see if we
Okay.
got to tweak it.
So we will prepare just the resolution to adopt setting our meetings for next month, or for next year, on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. and Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. in this chambers. And then we won't need a charter resolution if we're going to meet twice a week. So, okay, we'll prepare that and have that for you. And then one other note, because next week is a holiday week, we will plan on having 2 sessions on Thursday.
That's correct.
Okay.
We'll approve that on the agenda this Thursday.
That's all I have.
Mr. Van Paris, you have anything? Okay. All right. On the consent, well, we have any presentations at this time, or we just want to move on to the consent agenda, and then we'll hear from our funding request. You guys got any, well, I guess Commissioner Hall is absent. Anything on the consent agenda with minutes or anything?
Other than to approve it. That's the motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay. I guess we're ready for the funding request?
Yeah, we had received a request during the budget cycle from CASA. Then one of the local service providers for another function ceased providing that service. So CASA came back in and asked for additional funding for the last 3 months of the year, which was approved so they could provide that service. Now going forward for this upcoming year, they have had a chance to reevaluate where they are with expenditures and grant opportunities, and they've asked to be on the agenda to request additional funding for 2018.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine.
Can I-
Or you can be seated.
Can I ask a question before we start?
Absolutely.
The reason for this funding request is because another organization has ceased giving you funding? Is that the reason for it?
The other organization,
Yeah.
we never received funding from that
Right.
organization. We just
So
established
have
the
we
service.
given them funding?
Well, we do fund them on an annual basis, or we have. They have a request in
But
for next year.
They're,
I think this is where this is going,
Yeah.
Commissioner. I think that's where we're going to end up.
oh, okay. Well, I want to make sure that
Because
we,
2018,
right.
Well, I don't think it's.
I don't think we should
I don't think
fund
it's-
them in
Well, I
2018
think that's
myself.
that's a topic for another discussion. What CASA is asking for is additional funding. So
I
they
know.
can provide that. So
But
it's-
I just want to make it clear, the reason for them
Understood.
asking for this is because the other organization didn't give them any funding, which I think they were supposed to. And
Well,
so are we still going to fund the other organization?
the other organization is a separate entity. They were not going to give them funding. They were never, they ceased offering that service because they ran out of funding.
Right.
They asked for twice the amount of funding that they had in the past for next year, and we did not authorize that during our budget process. So I think if the board would like to invite that organization to come in and discuss before we give them any funds in 2018 to discuss their operation plan going forward.
I
think
would.
that'd be appropriate. However, that's,
agree.
the request today is separate from that. I just wanted to make sure we were,
Okay, well, I would like them to come in.
and I will invite them.
All right, we're ready.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Kelly Meyer. I'm the executive director for the CASA organization that serves Leavenworth County. I also have with me two of our board members I'd like to introduce. Jenny Freeman is our current board president through the end of this year, and with her is Holly Pittman, who will be our board president beginning January 1. So we always like to have our board members here just in case there's questions, or if you guys want to meet them or have an opportunity to talk to them, because they do so much for our organization. We are truly not just a nonprofit operating on an island. We have a humongous support system within the community. So I brought with me some information, and I would like to pass that out to you. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the information that I provided you was up to date with the 3 programs and services that we're currently offering. There are brochures for our Child Need of Care program, which is the program that we serve essentially children that are adjudicated in the court as a child need of care, with one volunteer who is assigned for the life of their case. I also provided a brochure for our Child Visitation and Exchange Center, where we provide supervised visitation for children and their non-custodial parent, and we also provide monitored exchanges for residential and non-residential parents in a safe environment with security staff, and also for our newer service, which is the CAC, the Child Advocacy Center, where we provide forensic interviews for children from ages 2 to 18. And as you are very familiar, that is a new service for us, and I am still learning just as much as I possibly can about how we can improve those services and make sure that they are very steady and reliable within in the community, which is why I am here. After kind of the dust settled and we were able to really understand how this was going to fit into the umbrella of services that we provide, we were able to do exactly what I promised that we would do when I was here in October, and that was open up services. And we did that. The organization was able to provide that service effective October 15th, which is what you did fund. And so from October 15th until November 30, we utilized the funding that you provided to open the doors. From October 15th to November 1st, we were able to ensure that all of our MOUs, which is something that is required for a CAC, were developed, signed by all the necessary entities to ensure that we could begin offering services. And so we kind of worked on that for that first 15 days that we opened up services, and then on November 1st we went full steam and we began offering forensic interviews and court advocacy again, and that has been steady since then, and things are going really, really well. So thank you very much for your past support so that we could get the doors open and make sure we were serving kids with no lag time, no need for them to travel a long distance to get services. We've been very successful in doing that, and only because of the support that you provided. Moving forward, we, as I said, have been able to see the dust settle, and we are very, very aware of what it is going to take for us to be able to continue offering this service at the quality that is necessary and really deserving of the children in our community. And so the request that we have made this year, you have in front of you, kind of along with the fact sheet that doesn't include CAC services because we haven't been able to really track those yet, and we're still working on that. That'll be included in the fact sheet that we provide for our services for 2018. And so we are asking for your support so that we can bridge that gap. We can make sure that we continue to offer these services that are vital to the kids in this community. As I said, we started offering services full steam. We provided 20 forensic interviews along with court advocacy just in the month of November. And I do know that the month of December has been very busy. I don't have the numbers. We're obviously still working on those, and there's still interviews scheduled through the remainder of this year. But that is what we are here asking for.
So originally your request was $26,000. You're coming back, and your total request will be $57,000, correct?
That is
So it's
correct.
$31,000 and some change.
That is correct.
That's the additional that they're asking for. So we had already budgeted $26,000 for CASA. They're asking for another roughly 31,000, 32,000.
Right. It's not that, I mean, they had originally, I think the document I had on my desk was like 50-some thousand, and that was the total, what they were totally asking for.
And 57,125 is the new total.
And some change.
And 57,125, that was the change, was the 125.
And you can pay the change.
As long as you authorize it, we will pay the change.
And we have somewhere to get this money?
I did provide you the page that was out of our budget that we authorized this year. And we did have, we allocated $50,000 for Board of County Commissioner contributions. So we can allocate that money out of that line item. And then I'll have the other entity come in, and the board can decide at that time if they're going to reduce funding for that organization equally, or if they're going to continue to fund it. But we do have a line item in our budget for that. You can
Is
use
that
that.
something you're comfortable with, Commissioner Clint?
Well, I have some other questions, but it sounds like there's some money there.
Right.
All right?
So the receipt from Limerick County, you receive, that's where you receive the $26,000 in October, is that what that is on your letterhead?
Funding sources.
No, they
No.
receive $26,000 annually from Leavenworth County for their other, the other services that they.
The other services. What's double sign here mean? You put down completed pound interviews.
This is their memo, not mine.
Oh,
But what it
okay.
is they put a placeholder in there for the number of interviews that they conducted, and they just left the pound.
Is that
the
multiple,
numbers.
does that mean multiple interviews? Is that?
Well, actually, what that meant, I made an error.
No, that's
Yes,
all
it
right.
happened.
Errors are
No,
good.
everybody's gonna know. What happened was I was actually thinking that we had 22 interviews, and instead we had 20. And so I wanted to verify that information, and I did not change that before I sent it in. So my apologies. That is in paper now, and that is completely.
We're not married. You do not have to apologize. You admitted that you made an error. It's a small error, and it clarified it in my mind. That's just like, you know, I knew what CCC is, but I didn't know what VOCA is. I thought maybe that was an error and you didn't put vocal. No, what's VOCA?
VOCA is a funding source. It is a grant that is provided through the governor's grants office.
Okay.
It's actually federal dollars that come through the state, through the governor's office, and then are channeled through different grant organizations. It stands for Victims of Crime Acts, and it is a grant source that is strictly penalty and fees,
Okay.
penalties and fines for victims to be.
So where was the rest of their money coming from before we got into asking now for another 31,000?
They previously didn't provide this service. In, I think what you said was October, and the group that used to provide the Child Advocacy Center, is that right?
Yes.
They ran out of funding towards the end of last year and just dropped that service.
Thought I remembered that.
So CASA stepped up and took that service over. They asked us to fund the last few months of the year to get them through so they'd have a chance to reevaluate. And at that time, we discussed that they would come back in and discuss next year's operations.
So
So
that-
we funded the last few months. Now they're coming back and asking for all of 2018 so they can continue to provide this service because the entity that was doing it before no longer did. Now, the county also funds through the budget that other entity.
Right.
So that's, the question is, I think that Commissioner Holland was bringing up, is how much are we going to continue to fund them since they've dropped this function that they
Right.
were doing before?
Okay.
And we'll
That's
invite them
why-
in.
That's why I want them to come in and explain it.
So we'll invite them in before we release any funds to them for 2018. We'll invite them in for the board to discuss that with them.
I mean,
Well-
to me, that's a way of raising their budget. I mean,
We'll release the 26,000, won't we?
Well, I think they had originally asked for, I mean, and again, they're not here, so I
Yeah.
don't want to get too far down that road, but they originally had asked for like a $90,000 request or something like that.
Right.
And we only funded 50,000, so that's probably why they could no longer afford to provide this service. we're providing 31,000, they're gonna have to come in and make that, have that conversation with the board.
So originally, we gave CASA
26.
26, and we gave the Alliance 50,
Yes.
76,000 to run 2 departments. Or,
That's how much the county contributed. They also have grants and other funding
yeah, but
sources.
when grants quit, you know who adopts it. We get to adopt the child or the adult or what the program is. And that's what's so nice about grants, you know. We get led into a valley here, and we have the valley, and it's not the valley of death. We have the valley of, we increase the mill levy, and it's no big deal. The state does whatever they do, federal government does whatever they do, and nobody reaps the unbenefit of it. We get the, you know, cat of nine tails.
It's not just grants, it's also mandates,
Oh, yeah, it's all good.
Right.
Yeah, so,
you know, but, I mean, it's the world we live in.
okay,
But
so you really think we need this?
I absolutely think we need this.
You think she's gonna say no?
Well, she was honest about her error.
Well,
then she's honest about her answer there.
Yeah,
I mean, once
Yeah.
you once you memorize all these acronyms, then,
yeah.
what, are you ready for a motion?
And I'm not sure. I know that you weren't here the last time that I spoke.
he probably was.
Yeah, probably was.
The services, all of the services that we provide under our umbrella are vital to our community. But most importantly, they're vital to children in our community. I know I don't have to tell any of you, you know who votes. Kids don't vote. The only people who they have to stand up for them.
That's good to put the picture on there. You know, if it's animal,
The
you
only
put
ones we
the
have.
cats on there and the little puppies. No, it's good.
We just have us, and I consider myself one of the biggest advocates for children in the community. And to think of what would happen if we didn't have this service, when the decision was made and when our organization was approached to take over the services of the CAC to ensure that we have that program in this community, it was truly a no-brainer for me. And when I went to my board, who is very supportive but also very critical of making sure that we are doing the right thing for our organization and the foundation, the stability of our organization, because just as you said, grants can be unreliable. We were very confident that considering our experience with successful grant writing and with our success in fundraising, we were able to ensure that we could go into this knowing we could be successful. If there was ever an opportunity or there was ever a chance for this to not pardon me, be successful for our organization, we would not have taken it on because as vital as the services of the CAC are, we also have 200 children a year that depend on the other services that we provide. So my answer is so much bigger than yes, I'm confident we need it. It's that not only do we need this service, but we feel that we as an organization have made ourselves very strong in the services we're providing, in the board support we have, the volunteer support we have, and the community support that we have to ensure that going forward, we were at a place where it made sense that before this service were to disappear in our community, it would come under our umbrella and be able to be provided through our organization. And so, obviously, our request is a significant amount of money. I never came to the commission and asked for that. As a matter of fact, just as our expenses have rose and we've added 2 staff positions and a tremendous amount of services, at most I come and request maybe an additional $1,500 per year. And lots of years I don't even request additional money. And that's because I totally appreciate how every dollar you spend in the community has to make a difference. I can tell you that this money will make a difference in children's lives regularly. In my opinion, and of course I live in the child advocacy world, the investment that we're making into our children is tenfold in the future. If these kids don't have these services now, their lives as adults will be different. So the services that we can provide to them today will make a long-standing impact on our community also.
Your approach makes it much more effective than if I talk about being conservative with the dollar. See, more people listen to you than to me. So it's very good that you said that. The other thing, who approached you of the need to take over this?
I was initially approached by the state CAC organization.
Okay.
So every agency within the state of Kansas and every individual CAC in the state has a state CAC. There's a state CAC that they kind of work with and answer to at that level. And so that was the entity that contacted me originally.
I think one other thing to just make note of is this only reflects about 15% of their total budget, their request from us. So they do generate a significant amount of their funding outside the county. Some of these other entities that we fund, we are their budget, or we're 80 to 90% of their budget. In this case, we're only 15% of their total operating budget. So they do a very good job of generating funds outside of what they request from us.
Thank you.
You know, this just worked out good, and then we can approach the state legislatures who don't do a thing up there.
I think there's a lot of discussion right now.
I said that it benefited one of your
I thought so.
I knew where you were going with that,
Yeah,
Commissioner, but I wasn't going to say anything.
So what do you need, a motion?
We need a motion unless at Christmas time we're going to deny children.
Oh, man, really throw it out
What'd you say, Lord? Oh, that's
Did I
good.
shame you into that?
No. I don't approach.
This board supports this, I know it does.
Yeah.
And we support
So
all the
what do
work
we need,
you
a
do.
motion for 31,000, or what do we need a motion?
I need a motion.
Yeah,
Motion
the
to
motion to
approve.
approve the additional funding.
Okay.
Commissioner Holland just did
Second.
that. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Then I'll call for a vote. Voting. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I wasn't hard with it.
You have been an amazing commission, and I really appreciate your support. And on behalf of myself, our board, but most importantly, the children, I very much appreciate everything that you do to support us. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate what your organization does.
Thank you. You guys have a Merry Christmas.
You
Yeah,
too.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you guys all for coming. Okay. We have anything else we need to come before us at this time?
I got a few things when you're all done. I didn't want to take too long.
Let me make sure.
Because we had such a good meeting the other
All right,
day.
Commissioner Klemp, what do you have for us?
I'd like to start the budgets earlier. My job is policy, and I just read 108 pages. So I got a long go over it with somebody. Then my favorite page was 108. Wasn't anything on it. That one was easy. Policy and budget. And as I go through budgets, I see things that we probably ought to spend a little more time on, a little more detail. That's where people get down, like on fuel. Had a very good meeting with the sheriff the other day. But there are other organizations, I said fuel, that way I'm not dealing with bullets and shells and that. Where people can get down and for the last 3 years and go through the paperwork and say, rather than say, well, this is what it was last year, this is what it's going to be this year. We can get down and they can get the pencil going a little bit better and get a little more detail on these budgets. I don't like budgets that I really can't see.
Well, I can speak for Public Works. When it came to fuel, they make several contacts with fuel providers to try to get a handle on futures and that. They just don't deal with what last year's fuel budget was.
Well, you know, I watched airlines for years. Southwest, God, were they smart. They bought fuel 3-4 years in advance. And all of a sudden, the fuel's going up to $3, well, I don't know, we're talking about diesel, $4 a gallon, and Southwest getting it for 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Because they go out into the future. And I don't know if that's wise to go out in the future.
Well,
Could
not several years, I wouldn't think.
Well, Southwest did it for 3 years, I know, and everybody else was in the red, and Southwest wasn't. They were just making money.
Mhm.
So I think there's a possibility that we can go out further than what we're going to do a little more research. I see the county museums that we gave $50,000 to, but we have a lot of, allocated it,
Mhm.
but there's that much money available.
And you'll probably see some of them come in after the first of the
Yeah, I
year
know
with some
that.
requests.
But that's what bothers me is that one comes in, then the other comes in, then the other comes in. I think we all ought to get them here, having them tell their story, and we can make a decision to get that out of the way where they don't come back later and say, well, you know, you gave so-and-so, we can do it at that time. Just a small point, that you get that out of your hair and it doesn't come back to bother you later. I've got two things, but that's strictly for the, I want to compliment the EMS. You know, EMS is driving slower. I don't know why, but I was behind the EMS vehicle the other day and they were just going along the speed limit. And I said, that's good. They're supposed to set the example.
I'm hoping they didn't have the lights and sirens on then.
Well, no, they didn't have them on. They were
Okay.
just being decent citizens at that
Okay.
time. It's when they don't have lights and sirens on and they're going 65 in a 40-mile-an-hour zone, that's probably a little too fast. And we don't end up buying a new vehicle for $156,000 running stoplights. So I just wanted to mention that. But I have two things for that I'll talk separately
Hey,
on. But
Before you get on to that, can I ask, when did you want to start the budget?
January the 1st.
Well, we won't have our evaluations.
Oh, well, maybe we ought to
We
wait.
won't know what we are.
Maybe we ought to
gonna-
wait a few days then.
Well, I thought January was going to be pretty busy with our work sessions on consolidating and combining services and stuff.
Well, that's going to have to be up to other entities, and there's a lot of pecking order here that's going on that are going to be very hard to do even within.
Well, I think we can do our part in discussing it,
That's true.
and then, you know.
But somewhat earlier, you said it was going to
Right,
start in May or
because,
June.
I mean, your valuations are going to come out in March, I believe, that the change in valuations, and that's when we
Right.
kind of get a handle on what we know what we're going to be collecting.
Right, I agree with that. But as soon as possible, because our primary jobs, or of the two, is budget.
That is correct.
And, you know, in a business, you don't just assume, you go back through the years, you keep the years to see what the flow is, and it's always going up, you know, the appraisals are always going up. That's a hard one to compete with. But I just think we need to start as early as possible so we can, in detail, go over these budgets, and for the administrator to make sure that these people are coming in with a budget that they've set down and they've taken a pen and pencil to. And it's not, well, it's the end of the year, I think, can we give everybody a pay increase? Do you have enough in your budget, Mr. Administrator? Well, I think let me take a look. Yeah, I got enough in there, and each department comes back, they got enough money to give a pay raise. Now, we had a guy in here once that started the pay raise at the start of the year, and that's where it ought to be. And at the end of the year, I guess we get the feeling gospel or something, and we say, well, we got some money left over. I wasn't aware that on, what, 5th, 7th year, 10th year, and something else, you give a $500 bonus. I wasn't aware of that. I just happened to run into that in the policy book. So I'm not saying there's something wrong with it, but I just think we need to start the budget as early as possible, and that's not May and June or when we said that it was going to start. That way we'll have a good budget, because this is, John's getting ready to put in the paper, this is the year of the taxpayer.
That's correct.
Yeah, I knew he was going to do that. But, you know,
Okay.
now, why is the, I can talk on, with the administrator on this. Start earlier, policy and budget. Let's see, I got it written down here, policy and budget. Because, you know, you wanted to remove $500,000 last time. And the board said, no, we're going to remove 1/4. Well, the whole half should have been removed.
Well, that's what was increased to pay for the roof on the
Pay for the roof, so it
Yeah.
should, the half should have been
Paid.
removed. But for some reason, the board overall saw that it shouldn't, so. But, well, once you get some, a tax on there, it ain't coming off. So, most of the rest of this, I'll talk over with the administrator, because sure want to knock off for 45 minutes.
And, you know, we've got the tax lid to deal with and how, and what the consumer price index will be. There's a lot of things. But, I mean, you're right, we can start early and we can always tweak it as we go.
Well, the tax lid isn't all bad. Now, I saw that you guys, before I got here, said it's a bad thing. I don't think it's all bad. We once had a tax lid, what was it, Council on Aging. Basically, it said, this is what you have to give them. I thought that was great. Now, you can give them more than that if you want. But if every department had we'll say every department's got a 1 mil. You just say, you got 1 mil, you figure out how to run it.
Well, Commissioner, even with the change of the legislature last year, the tax lid survived. I think the people have spoken on the tax lid.
Right.
Whether we agree with it or not.
Oh, I love there's a tax lid.
But I don't think it's affecting us like it is other counties and cities. I think we're all right. But like I said, the people support the tax.
Right.
And I'm a we the people person.
We the people, I agree. That's the taxpayer.
Uh-huh.
But if you're everything.
That's also beginning of the Constitution.
As you read through, and all you need to get a copy of the policy and procedure. And I always quote Clyde Graver with that little bitty book of the state statutes. And now the state statutes are like this. That's where we go. And we keep losing control. And most people don't understand this. It's called the courts. The courts and the lawyers. I have a lot of good lawyer friends, but man, I don't know what course they take in college. But everything is tied in to the courts. Anything you want to do, you got to go get a lawyer. You can't do it by yourself. You got to go get a lawyer. To really appeal your taxes, you got to go get a lawyer. You can fumble yourself, but you're going to get bit. So it's just amazing how the system has gotten out of hand with rules and regulations. And as I say, I'll talk with Mark on the things that I found here, because I did spend quite a few hours reading it in detail, because that's my job, policy and the budget. So, other than that, I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.